Hello, 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 hello. Hello and welcome to my special guest, bassist in my band, and my very dear friend, Amy. Hello, Amy.
Yo, how's it going?
First question should be an easy one. I pretty much just answered it. Who are you and what do you do?
Amy Penny, Joe Oliver's dear friend and bassist in the band. Bassist to Dan Out and Amy Penny. Good one.
It's a brand, it's not a name. Question is, how did you get into that? How did you get into being Amy Penny?
No. When I went for my Amy Penny training, it escalated from there.
I guess, how did you get into playing bass? And you can also tell the story of how you got into the band if you want to. I know it, but I'm happy to hear it again.
I started playing bass. My dad plays bass, so actually, to be fair, my dad always played it, and I always played it like a tiny bit, but barely. And I was in like year 7, and there was an email that went around school that was like looking for a bassist to join our band, and I was like, I know bass. Didn't know bass.
Do that.
And so I went and found them, and it was like some boys that I didn't even know. But I wanted to be in a band that bad. I pretended to play bass, stole my dad's bass, didn't steal it, borrowed it, but it was a really expensive bass, so I probably shouldn't have. And then learned from there. But I didn't really. I just played as much as you can, like Smoke on the Water and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then I actually got into bass when one of my friends was like, my dad played Hysteria, like when my friend was around, and she was like, oh, that's really sick. I'm going to learn it. And then she's messaged me a couple of days later, like, yeah, I've learned Hysteria. And I was like, whoa, hang on now. You don't even play bass. Like, I'm going to learn Hysteria better than you can learn Hysteria so that I can, keep that
good old-fashioned competition.
Dynamic. And then I learned Hysteria and was like, oh, I can do that.
Did you play it
And
better?
then I went around to her house and she can't even play Hysteria. I was like, what a waste of my time.
Yeah, it's turned into a big waste of time.
I mean, yeah. Now I have to play bass all the time, so that's not bad. I literally lied and said that I could play bass to get in a band in year 7.
And now you can play bass, and you are in a band.
I can play bass. I know. We're better than my year 7 band as well.
I really hope so. Can you imagine if you're like, actually, they were really good.
We were called what were we called? Lost in Tranquility, I think.
Oh, that's quite nice.
Which is actually quite sick.
Yeah,
At the time,
that.
I was like, I don't know what that means, but sure. But,
I mean, I think we've all been in those I say shitty, like, they were important, but, like, in terms of quality, we were good. Like, we've all been in those, like, year 7 bands.
Well, it's just like a getting into playing with other people and, like, learning the dynamics of a band, really. It's not really about being able to play the music as much as it is now.
And you're usually doing covers as well, so it is just a case of like starting to learn how things work, like you said, in a band, but also like within a song, what roles go where and what instruments do what, especially if you're kind of self-taught.
Yeah, for sure. And it was also quite interesting, like I'd never really seen, obviously guitar and bass come hand in hand a lot of the time anyway, but for like microphones and drum setup and stuff, I'd never seen any of that and I had no idea what was going on. So it's good to start learning that, and then you get into other bands and you can start helping and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's always good to have a little bit of knowledge about everything going on, just so you know what's going on.
So you know, yeah, exactly. It's just nice to not be completely in the dark all the time.
Yeah. So when Ryan's like, can you pass me my hi-hats? You know what a hi-hat is.
I was literally complaining about that the other day, not knowing what everything was. I was like, is that the one that goes shh, or the one that goes
As long as you can describe it, that's okay.
Yeah.
as long as it can be communicated what's needed. It's fine. Yeah. Fine. Okay, and how you got into the band, if you want to tell that?
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just join my band, the website. Obviously, we know what it is, but the bandy website.
Yeah.
I literally saw it and was like, I remember thinking, because I went on Spotify, obviously, before I wanted to message the band, I wanted to make sure it was some good quality shit stuff. And
You can swear, it's fine. I don't care.
And I remember listening to you guys like, these guys are never gonna let me in, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
You thought we were good? We tricked you into thinking we were good. I love that. Because
obviously I was listening to I really liked. I was like, oh my god, I like this music. And then I went on the Facebook and I saw like 10 things I hate about you memes. And I was like, I think I'm gonna like people. I was like, it's too good to be true. There's no way they're gonna let me in. But apparently I tricked you into thinking I was good as well. And now here we are.
I'd actually seen you on, I think, Band Mix a couple of days before. I was like, oh, it seems like she'd be into similar stuff as us, but she hasn't really been online. So maybe she's not actually looking anymore and just hasn't got rid of her profile. And then you contacted us a few days later. I was like, what a coincidence. And then what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, yeah. I remember. I think it's probably because like when we first started the band and it was just fucking around and it like wasn't anything serious or important. Like Ryan hadn't really, I don't know if he'd ever played the drums before or if he just hadn't played them in a long time, but like he wasn't like super knowing what he was doing. He was a bit rusty and stuff. And I went from bass to lead guitar. Like none of us were at an amazing level at our instruments when we first started. And we've had this attitude as well, and Ryan will agree with me, of like, we'll take dedication and enthusiasm and everything over being a crazy, amazing musician, because you can become a better musician, but you can't fake the enthusiasm if it's not there.
Yeah, that's true.
But you're really fucking good anyway, so we won in both courts, it's fine.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fair. Like, it's so important to be enthusiastic about it. And also, like, if you're enthusiastic about it, you're so much more motivated to get better at what you're doing anyway.
Exactly.
So, like, I've got so much better at bass since being with you guys, just because at first I wanted to, like, make you proud.
Aww. So
and at this point, it's just trying to keep up. But I, like, can notice it in myself. I was listening to one of our practices the other day, and it was like the first time I've ever listened to a song that I was playing in and thought, actually sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the song was. It was like one song in
Only
one
one
of the practices we've done over the last year.
It always sounds good to me, but
that one was decent. If I could do that all the time, that'd be grand.
No, I've been doing like these songs for over a year now, and I still don't get them perfect every time. So, but you're right about like I know I went all cute about like wanting to make us proud, but that's exactly my motivation for writing new songs and making sure they're good and exploring new things and making them sound different and stuff, is so that they're exciting for you guys to listen to and like to want to play. Because if I just send you something like, I wrote this, didn't really meh, and you're just like, oh yeah, it's okay, like that's not motivating for either of us. So I'm so like, I need to make sure it's a banger.
If someone's really excited on, they're going to be way more motivated to write like an equally exciting part and then learn the equally exciting part, and then it'll all come together a lot more.
Yeah, exactly. So you've been in bands in the past, obviously, and done other musical things in the past. So I wanted to ask you about what the gender balance has been like in those. I know you've mentioned like a few female musicians that you've either played with in the past or have made friends with.
Yeah, in past bands, see, I'm not sure where to start counting the bands, because I probably wouldn't count my VS7 band.
I count all the bands when I say that, like, like I was in bands in the past with like none of us knew what we were doing, none of us could play, but there were a couple girls, and that's just important to have around. Is girls with the same mindset. So you can count whoever you want.
I'll go on then. I'll count my first band, because we did play it quite a few times. I think we were together like a year, but you know, it was after school. Anyway,
it's formative.
They were all lads, but it was like we were like 12, so it wasn't really like, obviously gender comes a little bit more, like people care about it more as you get older. So in school it was like no one really wasn't really mentioned, it didn't really matter. The next band I was in is the one that we talked about in the last video, the first like proper one, and that was when I was like 16, 17, 16, I don't know, something like that. And I'm pretty sure like I was only there because I was a girl.
Really?
And it was like an exciting thing to be like, to have a female in the band, which is fine because it was good. It was a good band and I quite enjoyed it. But it was like I wasn't made to feel particularly comfortable. It was like I was there as a girl. But they were really nice guys and stuff, and we formed it like all together. It's not like I joined and they were already there, but that sort of made it all the more telling, is that they banded together and like would watch FIFA and watch FIFA. Such a twat. Play FIFA, watch sports, and like all go to the pub and stuff. And I'd be there like, be nice to have an invite though, wouldn't it? I like beer.
Oh yeah, we've all been there.
But yeah, so that was like, it was just a bit of boys club, but I mean, nothing really wrong with it. It was exciting for me and I enjoyed it and I really liked the guys. It was just not really my scene.
Yeah, didn't have the vibe.
And then the band after that, yeah. And then I went to uni anyway, so I was like, nah, I'll leave. But then I think they broke up after I left anyway, because I was clearly the glue.
You were the glue. Yeah.
Or they just couldn't be asked to find another bassist.
That's also entirely possible.
Yeah, and the next one I was in was like, we had, actually, there was more girls than boys. We had 3 girls, 2 boys, which was quite exciting. We had the singer, me, the singer, and the drummer were all girls. But yeah, that was until I found you guys, that was like the nicest dynamic I'd been in, because everyone was friendly and like the girls could have a little girly chat and the boys could have a little boy chat, and then everyone could have a chat together as well. So that was a really nice dynamic to be in. But there was like not as much motivation for the actual music. It was like a social meetup and we'd play some songs. We had like one gig and it was the singer's birthday party. So
I mean, that's kind of exactly how like DNO started, because it was just a few people getting together to play covers, and pretty much the main reason that we actually kind of stayed together and started doing band stuff is partly because me and Ryan like were vibing. I think I made like a joke about like a TV show that's not that popular in the UK, but like was quite well known in like the 90s in America and Canada and stuff. And I made like a...
Was it Boys Meet?
It was Boy Meets World.
Boy Meets World. I knew it was something like that. I couldn't work out.
He caught my reference. I was like, I like this guy. And that was like the first practice where I just filled in briefly. And I was like, regardless, I kind of would like to be friends with Ryan. He seems cool. And now we're still friends and we're in a super awesome band together. A totally amazing rock band. Is that a School of Rock reference? Feels like one.
I don't think it is. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I just feel like, you know that scene where he's trying to like make Lawrence, is it Lawrence? Is that his name? Make him feel cool.
On piano.
Yeah. I'm not cool enough.
Lawrence is good at piano.
Shall be rocking in my show.
Love that film.
I think that film had a huge influence as well on, I mean, I was already kind of into music when I saw it, but I definitely think that had a big impact.
I think you might be right, actually. I think that might have been something that definitely made me want to play like music.
I wanted to be in that
I remember
class.
watching like...
So bad.
I wanted to... Oh, man. I remember watching the bassist like, why does the bassist not get a solo at the end?
Do you know what? I've
Everyone
been
else
asking that for
the
years.
keyboardist gets a solo.
And my friend did tell me that actually they weren't very comfortable with what they played. So I think it was cut because of that. And I've read some interviews that they've done recently about their experience on the whole thing. And it seems like they had a bit of a stage parenty sort of situation going on. But they said they loved working on School of Rock and they loved everybody that they worked with. But it was like a conflicting experience for them personally because of all of that stuff going on. But definitely was an influence. I know, but I it's nice to know that like at least they did really enjoy the experience and the people and had a great time with them. And I think they're still in contact with a lot of the people. But it's also
they did that like
reunion
recently,
yeah,
didn't they? Not
that was
recently.
cool.
It was like 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago now, but it feels recent. But yeah, I definitely think that helped as well because that had girls in the band as well. Even if it was like the backing singers too, and like the girl and like Summer being the manager, and just like when we were kids, that's the sort of stuff that we needed to see. I feel like.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good point. I can't even remember how old I was when I watched School of Rock for the first time, but I'm still convinced that I could probably speak through the entire script of School of Rock by heart.
I saw it. I think I didn't see it like in cinemas or anything, but I definitely saw it quite early on. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it made me want to go into music, but it definitely made me like.
It was encouraging.
When I was playing music and I was watching it, I was like, I felt more involved and excited about what I was doing and what they were doing and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, encouraging is probably the right word.
Yeah. No, I agree. I was trying to do maths, and you know how that. I was trying to think out.
Really interesting for you.
I was trying to think out how old I was when I saw it, but let me just Google when it came out.
I got a feeling it's like
2001,
2003, 1 or 3.
Yeah, around that sort of time. Yeah, you're right, 2003. So how old would I be?
Oh, I've got a weird thing about knowing when movies came out.
I used to be really good at it when I was a media undergrad.
It's always a guess, but then it's nearly always right.
I feel like especially with like
clearly not a guess somewhere.
A lot of films you can like even just remember. You can guess kind of what sort of decade they were from, at least.
I've got a good memory for really stupid things. Everyone's birthday and movie years, and that's it.
Childhood trauma.
That's all.
You know how it is.
So fair.
Right, yeah, we've talked about like women you were in I was going to say cahoots. In cahoots with in the past. In bands with in the past. And did music with in the past. So are there any other women in your life who were role models or encouraged your interest in music? I know we talked about your dad playing, so obviously that was a gateway sort of thing for you. But any female specific role models?
I'm just trying to think. I mean, my mum's like sort of not in so much like a musical, like playing, because she's not very musical, bless her. She doesn't play anything, but the type of music that I'm interested in, Mum really likes, good, what I call good music. So that's definitely
not music.
yeah, exactly. So that definitely made me listen to like more bands and stuff, and then I think listening to bands obviously makes you more interested in wanting to play than like pop would for me personally, because you can hear all the different instruments and stuff in bands. So I guess like not directly, but sort of from that. Other than that, I'm just trying to think. I really don't think so. Unfortunately.
No, that's part of the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I guess technically the girl that couldn't play Hysteria.
Yeah.
But I definitely would not call her inspiration.
That's more.
No,
Society tells me that I need to fight against other girls. No, I'm joking.
I will always be in competition with another female who questions my bass playing ability.
This is why we haven't done our bass battle yet.
This is exactly.
To preserve the friendship.
You're my fucking new enemy.
You've only heard me play one song as well, and it's not even.
I don't like it. It's enough.
I saw it on your playlist. I know it's there.
Oh. Shit. It's only there out of pity.
Showing your hand a bit there. Out of pity. Dickhead. But no, like your mum was encouraging though as well of you playing and of you playing in bands, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like she came to my first, in fact, has she been to most of my gigs? Yeah, no, my mum was super encouraging. And she was always like trying to push me to do it as well, because I was like super nervous and shy and stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously playing on a stage, you know, is such a big confidence boost, especially when you're a little bit of a little weed.
Is that how you're describing yourself? No, I get it. If you're like, if you're lucky,
let's be honest, still am.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she let me play like that first time, and since then she was like, she always tried to push me to join bands and stuff like that, just because she could see that it was good for me. So yeah, she's been super supportive. Bless her. But I think like influential, like why I got into it has got to be my dad, because he was always in bands and stuff as well. So I would go to his gigs and see that that was cool, and I could play that at home a little bit. So why can I not go and do that kind of thing? So I did.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I'm not discrediting your dad's influence based on his gender. That would be sexism.
Part of the problem.
No, like saying my dad is really musical as well. So I was musical like before I really knew him, but then when I did know him, it did help me to learn a lot more. So yeah.
I mean, to be fair, like I still like learn more about bass when I go and visit him than I do on my own. So yeah. I can't say anything, discredit that.
Yeah, well, he's got the experience, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But it's
and a better bass than I do.
It's important as well for yeah, that helps. It's still important for dads to encourage their daughters to play, because you'll probably find there are some dads who would be like, "Girl can't play rock music."
Yeah.
I've never come across one, because I think most dads who like rock music would be very, very happy for their daughter to like rock music. But I'm sure there are like plenty of dads who are just like, no, you have to do this, this, and this because you're a girl.
Yeah, and also I think it's maybe like a kind of protective thing, you know, that you don't want your daughter going into. You wouldn't want your daughter going into like a band setting, because there can be a little bit of a stigma attached to it, can there?
Yeah, definitely. Especially with more and more like stories coming out as well. How about, I don't know how involved you've been in like rock scenes and music scenes and going to gigs and stuff, but how do you find it, if there's anything of note to say, being a woman who's into rock music? Do you ever like get some gatekeepy people, or are people surprised, or?
I think usually, I mean, it's difficult because usually the people that I hang out with are not not surprised at all. The people at work actually were quite surprised, because I always I'd get in first and open the building and then put like my music on. And it's like a thing now that people are like, "Oh, Amy's working because we can hear her music from fucking like," and which I think because they didn't expect it from me, because it took me a couple of weeks to be comfortable enough to just whack my music on and do what I want. And so that was quite funny. It's quite common these days, especially like when you're at school, a group of people that you hang out with is like expected or not expected. You can sort of assume what kind of music they're into. It's a stereotype, but you can.
Well, yeah, definitely when you're a teenager, especially.
Yeah.
When it comes to going to shows and stuff, I'm going to ones generally that are more gender balanced anyway, because it's like pop punk and there is more girls into that. And it's It's rowdy in a different way that like a metal gig would be, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure. I do remember. I'm sure I can't work out if I felt uncomfortable because I was a girl or if I felt uncomfortable because I was so young. But like going to the My Chemical Romance gig was like the first one I went to when I was like 16, 15 maybe.
Oh,
And
bless.
it was just me and my friend. And we like went into the crowd. And my dad was like right at the back, so you know what a gig's like. There's no way he's anywhere close.
Yeah.
And just being like super scared, and everything. And then I like got too hot and nearly passed out. And then was like some stranger was trying to give me water, and I was like, no, I should drink this water, but I don't want to pass out. But I think that was partly just me being really young, to be honest.
Yeah, if it's your first gig, then
I don't even know if it was a guy or a girl that was giving me water.
Yeah, that's something that I talked about with Emily as well, actually, is like I always it's my fault, I bring up metal as like an example of where you might not feel as safe, but actually metal and a lot of rock genres and subgenres and stuff, but metal is like very kind of community-esque, so like I think it's it'd actually be quite rare to have people being dicks, but you do get some gatekeepers, but you get that in a lot of genres. But yeah, I think there are quite a lot of women into like rock and metal as well. And I think sometimes it just depends on the band more than anything. Like if the band kind of give out this mantra of equality and treating everybody well within the fan base, I think you're gonna have a lot better atmosphere at one of their shows than
I think
band that like talk shit about women,
Yeah, I would imagine so. It's also like the actual gig, I think, and the atmosphere of the gig. Because I always like, sometimes you get bands that come out and they're like they come out with a lot of energy, which is, great. But then as soon as they start like thrashing about, like obviously the crowd gets super rowdy. But then you get some that come out and they're like saying really nice things and they're like, look after yourselves, everyone look after each other. And I think that like that will affect the crowd, because it was actually that same gig, the Blackout, that was supporting, and they were like,
I went to this tour.
I want to see everyone. You. The Blackout were like, I want to see everyone in a mosh pit, but if someone falls down, fucking get them back up, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that was like, that's so cute.
Well, that's exactly like a lot of the bands that I do go and see do have that kind of attitude. So I think that's probably why I feel a bit better at a lot of the gigs that I go to, because I know like even there are artists that we listen to who I've seen videos of like them stopping songs or stopping shows if they see something going on in the crowd that either like someone's in danger or someone's being inappropriate, to call that out and make sure the audience feels safe. And I think that's really important. And you find it regardless of gender of the bands. But again, it's simple. This is the part where it comes in of like male band members and stuff, and male members of the fan base doing what they can to make women feel safer and more welcome, and just everybody feel safer and more welcome. But if there's somebody that is more likely to feel unsafe and unwelcome, you might have to do a little bit more to make up for that.
That's fair.
I was thinking about how and it's probably way too deep to go into, probably too much like history and social things to discuss to actually answer it. But the example of like, why are there more women in pop, both as performers and fans, audience members, than rock genres and stuff like that? Because obviously there's especially in the past, there's been lots of like sexism and stuff in rock music, but we know it's a lot better now than it was, and there are a lot more women performing. Well, I say more now, but like obviously you had like Joan Jett and the Slits and all these artists in the 70s and the 80s. And again, I'm sure there's so much more to go into about that. So I'm not really going to ask why. But yeah, it's just a thing that I've noticed. And I think we've probably discussed it personally before.
Yeah, I think you probably
Yeah,
are.
I
We
just
definitely talked about like early 2000s being like one or two, like Paramore, one or
yeah,
two
it
like
was dry, wasn't it?
female fronted pop punk bands, and then it
Yeah.
came out like a few years ago.
Yeah, I think Paramore opened the floodgates a bit, like for better and for worse, of like every female band since is like, they sound like Paramore. But also it did open the door and make people realize there's a market for this. Maybe we should give these women in bands a platform and a chance and maybe sign some.
Maybe we should allow them to play music.
Maybe we should let the women speak. We have something to say. They'll have ugly things like thoughts and opinions of their own. So yeah, for example, I don't pay much attention if I'm honest, and I probably should. But like, say if you go to see a band that's all men, versus if you go to see like, have you seen the Pretty Reckless live?
No, I don't know if I've seen any female fronted band live.
Oh, that's a whole other discussion,
or
isn't
any
it?
bands with females in it live, except like maybe at Download, but not I could tell you the name of, or like festivals. Def Havana had a girl there, but I don't know if she's part of the band.
Oh, that's a good question, actually. I don't know Def Havana, because it took me ages to realise that Creeper had a girl in the band, because I'd only heard one song, but then she was on Stand Atlantic's album.
Oh, was she? Sorry, was she?
Yeah, on the first one. You know Clay? She's the feature on that.
Yeah, I love that song. Sorry.
It's a great song. They don't have any band. Def Havana don't have any band photos with a woman, but maybe they had her on stage for like a feature or something.
Yeah, I don't know who she was.
Or a tour.
They might have had like a literally there, like, who's this bitch?
Who is she? What is she doing here?
Where did she come from?
Where did you find her? But yeah, like that's another thing to think about, like how that affects how many like women are in the audience if there are more women in the bands. You know, because we've got the whole sort of thing of like it's a lot better now of actual girl power and like supporting women, but there's been a past of resentment, I guess, of like I don't know exactly how to describe it. Yeah, being like, oh well, I don't like her. Well, why don't you like her? I don't know. Internalized misogyny. Sometimes there are legit reasons, but
it's a little bit like I think it's a bit of jealousy as well. It's got to be.
Mm-hmm.
You're like,
it comes back to like I joked about it before with you and that girl, but there is a bit of like. I say a bit, there's a lot of like pitting girls against each other for things that they don't need to be pitted against each other for. Like it would make more sense for them to band together, no pun intended, than to be in competition. And I think there's a lot more of that happening now. I think women have had enough and it's great. Sorry, you were saying?
No, I do agree. I think because there's obviously like less women musicians than there is like male musicians. Yeah. Obviously, I have no statistics for that. I'm just assuming.
Oh, I mean, just look at anything.
Yeah. But I think it's like So this is going to sound really stupid, but I'm going to say it anyway.
I'll cut it out if it really is stupid.
Especially. Oh, yeah, I appreciate that. Not so much anymore, but like when I was younger, it was like being a bassist was like something like a female bassist was like an exciting thing for me. It was like something that made me interesting. So if I would hear that there's another female that played an instrument, I'd be like, well, that's my thing. I do that. You can't come over here. And then that's where the competition arrives. I think.
Yeah.
It's like. But that's the thing that makes me interesting.
When
if you do it, then you're interesting too.
Do you feel like it's a purposeful thing as well to be like to pit the people against each other who are in the minority? I don't mean like purposeful, like we're going to make sure that these girls don't like each other. But like there's been like a atmosphere fostered where it's like if you are in the minority, there is only a set amount of spaces for you. Not obviously not lit. That's not actually the case, but like you get made to feel like there's a amount of spots. So somebody else coming in who is similar to you in how you are a minority might make your place feel threatened, even though it should just be a case of why can't we make more space? And that, but like you said, there's so many men in music, and another man coming in doesn't automatically mean, excuse me, I'm a man.
Yeah. Yeah, well, if you
you know what I mean?
Find that out for I think, but like if you think about it with other things, just trying to think of anything else that I do, I literally can't think of anything that I do. But like something that loads of women do, it's not like I never really, because I feel a little bit the same with like sport and like at Ninja Warrior and stuff, because if a guy comes in and does like the course, I'm like, yeah, fair enough. But if a girl comes in and does the course, I'm like, yeah, but I can do it faster, kind of thing. But maybe it's just me. Maybe
you're just really competitive.
Maybe I just hate women.
You really are part of the problem.
Is it just me? You'll be like, yes.
No, but like it's so easily like think about, and I'm gonna go on a tiny bit of a tangent, but like it's still representation. But there's so many like films and TV shows and stuff, again, where there's like a group of men and only one woman, or if there is another woman, she's competition. Why can't they just be friends?
Mm-hmm.
I just want them to be friends.
Yeah.
That's all I want. I just want them to be friends.
Get along.
But like, I think the point I'm trying to make is I think it is ingrained to be like, even if it's not actively like girls should always be in competition, we get shown things that kind of subconsciously plant that idea of like there can only be one girl in this group, and you know, I'm the girl in this group of friends with boys. We can't have another, and there's no reason for that actually to be true. And it's just something we've talked before about how the media brainwashes us and it turns us into part of the problem, and then we feel bad because we got fooled.
It's true though.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's
true though, and it is just such a big part of you. Just like literally gets ingrained, and then you can't really help it.
It's like I don't think that's the solely responsible, because there's just so many, like obviously not so much now, which is fucking fantastic, but when we were younger there was so many gendered expectations of things, even if it's not within our own families, just in society in general, of like things girls and boys should be allowed to do, like, and it's just as bad for boys in terms of gender roles and stereotypes, because the amount of things that they might want to do that they feel shamed to do is ridiculous. God forbid a man wear pink. You know what I mean?
How dare he?
And that's the sort of thing
that's how people... I think.
No, I mean like, you know, he might be on the down low. It's like a man can like a colour. Fuck off. Have you ever been made to doubt your abilities or place in the music environment because of your genre? Fucking. Have you ever?
Pop punk. Oh, yes, all the time.
Yeah, nobody likes pop punk.
People say it's not a real genre. It is.
They say it's dead.
They say you can't take two opposing things and put them together.
It's beautiful.
You can't be popular and out of the loop. It just doesn't work.
You can't give in to the mainstream of pop and also the anti-establishmentarianism of punk.
You can't be a popular anarchist.
Have you ever been made to doubt your abilities or place in the music environment because of your gender?
I feel like the answer is definitely yes, but I can't think like right. So the thing is, like, I have doubted my ability in music because of my gender. I know for a fact that I have.
You hear a child screaming? I don't know if it's my own.
Only in my own mind.
Wow, that's relatable. Sorry, please carry on.
My younger self.
My inner child screaming at what I've become.
That's what makes me doubt my ability.
But you did kind of mention, like earlier, with the boys who you kind of thought you were fun because you were a girl.
Yeah, I think like just trying to think about it. The thing is, which is sort of, I mean, kind of a big part of it is that I definitely have doubted my abilities, like because of my, well, full stop generally, but also like I've thought about it in terms of being female, but I can't think of what has made me feel like that. But
society
likes
to downplay women's abilities.
Yeah, but that's got to be it. Like, because there's no way that would come out of nowhere. Doubting your abilities, that's just crippling self-doubt. You know, that's fine. But but like feeling like you don't have a place there because of your gender, it's got to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
But maybe it's just generally like all over the shop.
I mean, yeah, it could be the representation as well of if you don't see people like you in that industry, you might think there's no place for you there.
Yeah, and also like I think when you see like in media, oh yeah, I suppose it's in media. But when you see like girls in bands, they're always so like, this is gonna sound awful. Like guys in bands are like hidden and not really spotlighted as much because they're not as special or interesting. But so when you see the girls in bands, they're always like super special and interesting.
Yeah.
And like highlighted and spotlighted and kind of too perfect.
Like they have to be as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that too. Well, it's the fact that they're so spotlighted has got to be someone has decided that is the most interesting thing at that time.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You know, sort of seeing that is like, I don't know if subconsciously I'm like, oh, I'm nothing like her, so what's the point in trying, kind of thing. But I don't know if that's true, but that's sort of how it feels sometimes.
No, I mean, you're definitely right. There's definitely a case of, with male bands, because there's so many of them, it's kind of simultaneously, you'd have to do more to stand out because there's so many of them. But then you also can get away with not doing anything to stand out and just letting the music speak for itself. Yeah. Whereas there may well be a case of like, you have to go above and beyond to show that you deserve this spotlight or this attention if you're a girl, because you're not, there aren't many of you. And it's like, you have to justify your place there maybe. Or it could well just be a case of like record labels being like, we need to make sure she's really, really interesting. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes of bigger bands. But yeah, I think
and also like
either way on that.
I don't want to stand out. Like, I've got no interest in standing out. That's why it's partly why I play bass. I joke about it, but I would quite like to be as far in the background as I physically can.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I mean, like, so I don't want to stand out just because I don't want to be like, oh, like, I'm the girl singer and I do this and that. I'm like, no, I want to stand out because my music speaks for me.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think when you see like girls in bands a lot of the time, they're not relatable. It's a problem, I guess. They're always, I want to say too perfect, but it sounds stupid. But you know what I mean?
No, I know what you mean. But I guess that's the case of like a lot of them, especially like bands like Paramore and like the Pretty Reckless, have got that big kind of driving marketing thing behind them that may well be part of like they've been made up into this image by those labels. Like that's not necessarily.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly, but I think that's kind of probably why I like Stand Atlantic a lot and bands like that and like Hot Milk, is because they don't really bother with that sort of facade of like when they're doing it. They'll be like, our promoter told us to tweet about this, and they're like posting memes and stupid pictures of themselves, you know. I know we can't necessarily answer this without doing some academic reading or some shit, but I just wanted to bring it up. But like, why was bass considered a girl's instrument? Like, I don't know. Is it because it's less strings?
It's easy.
It's less skillful, isn't it? But like, it's just it's not. I wouldn't say it's less skillful. I think it's a different skill. Because you're doing a different thing.
It's easier to learn, but it's harder to like master.
Yeah,
is the thing. It's like,
yeah, like I think you're right. Bass is seen as an easier instrument, so it's like more palatable for a woman to play. In the past, not so much now, but still, I'm sure there are people who think that.
Especially like, not so much the music, the instrument, because you see like some crazy bassists, but like pop, especially the pop punk. Oh my god, especially the pop punk genre is generally leads itself to quite a boring bass line. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah, it's
like
sad.
Not like recently there've been some good bassists in pop punk, but like early 2000s, it was like, yeah, just gonna follow the root notes and chuck them, and that's it.
But no, I know exactly what you mean. Like, if you listen to like, and I'm not saying anything bad about the bassist at all, because this is only one specific example, but like The Middle by Jimmy Eat World.
Yeah.
That was one of those things where it was a really, really easy bass line to learn. Like, maybe the speed would be challenging, but the actual changes, there's barely any. But sometimes that's what bands are going for. Sometimes they don't want it to be like...
I mean, sometimes it really works to have that sort of backbone in there.
Yeah.
And there are songs where it's like, I can't think of an example. Maybe like Dance Dance by Fall Out Boy is pretty simple.
But it's iconic.
But it's really distinctive. Yeah, exactly.
I think that's like more, I think that's not just bass. I think that's a thing in general of playing enough that it's interesting, but not stepping all over each other.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important thing in bands.
Like crowded.
Yeah. Sometimes you'll find people are playing and it feels like they're trying to be the center of attention in a part of the song where they shouldn't be the center. Like, if you've got a guitar solo, it's different. But if you're playing a solo over something that's happening on the drums or something that's happening on the vocals, it very much gets to a point of like, why you're stepping all over this part that is meant for this part of the... You can have your solo later,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't even have to be a solo. It can just be like a
too much melody or whatever.
Distinctive part. Yeah, I was trying to think of a way to put it. Yeah, no, I do.
Yeah, you've got to find a nice balance of it being like distinguishing and not distracting when the focus needs to be elsewhere. A bit of a tangent, but yeah, bass is definitely like a looked down upon instrument.
So when you said earlier, like, have I ever doubted my abilities because of my gender? I was like, no, but I've like had so many people like be shits to me because of being a bassist rather than being a female.
Yes.
Like, I've had so many people like literally come in to practices and be like, oh yeah, it's not a real instrument though, is it? Mostly when I was younger, to be fair.
I mean, like, I've heard comments of like the bass isn't important and stuff like that, and I'm like, take out that bass and see how you feel.
Yeah, fucking see what happens.
Generally, I've had more people be like complimentary and supportive, like randomers, of me playing bass. But I also think, like we said before, it's a more palatable thing for a girl to play. So you've already got that advantage of not having it held against you. Like, you can go either way if you're like a female lead guitarist or drummer, of people can either be just really like excited to see that and impressed because they don't see it often, or you can go over into you're good for a girl, or shouldn't you be playing something a bit more delicate or shit like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I think with a lot of like compliments that you get or like comments that you get, I always assume it's like for a girl is not always there, but I sort of assume it always is.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I do sometimes wonder if we are being complimented because we are girls. Like, I don't know how often like Ryan might get compliments compared to us, and it's like, are they approaching us because we're girls and they were surprised that we were good or whatever? Or even,
but I feel like
creeps. I don't know.
yeah.
It happens.
I feel like obviously I haven't had that much experience with gigs with you guys, unfortunately, but I feel like, does Ryan not get less compliments because he's not a girl? Because I would have thought that people would be like more likely to want to support the girls and then be like, oh, he must get compliments all the time, just ignore it, kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I couldn't say for sure. I've never asked him actually. It might be worth asking him about that.
It might be interesting to talk to him about.
Yeah,
have a chat like this with him.
You're right, because it may well be like people maybe don't think to compliment him because they think he's the boy and he's probably, we need to lift up the girls who might not get us. But then it can fall into kind of outbalancing and then him not getting the credit he deserves for the work that he does. Yeah,
definitely.
And that's definitely a good question. And I think I'll ask him about that at some point. Yeah, I've never thought about or even thought to ask whether or not Ryan gets many people coming up to him and telling him that they enjoyed it and stuff. And part of that might be, because I'm the singer, people probably assume if they liked the song or whatever, that might be more my doing. But still, like, it's nice to compliment everybody in the band.
It's also like, it might be a drummer thing because you're going to recognize the people at the front. You're going to recognize you and me on Shah more than you're going to recognize poor Ryan's stuff at the back.
Yeah, bless him. Especially like those gigs where they are really, really at the back. Yeah, that's definitely a factor as well. You're right. It's a tough one.
There's loads of contributing factors that it might not. Absolutely. It might be the case and it might not be the case, but it's hard to say because there's going to be lots of things. But it is interesting.
Yeah, and it's exactly the same with like what we were saying about people complimenting girls and whether or not they're doing it more or less or doing it because it's something they haven't seen often or if that's something they want to see more often or...
Yeah, because I like compliments are nice and everything, but it always like stresses me out a little bit because I always think like there's so many things. I'm like, one, are you pitying me? Because I don't want your pity. Yeah. Two, like, are you just trying to be like uplift, like supportive to the girl in the band because you're trying to be patronizing?
Yeah.
Three, are you trying to be creepy? Always a good one.
It's really sad as well that we can't just trust
take it.
That somebody just wants to encourage, because you'll probably find that it is most of the time a case of like, I don't see this often. I don't know if they maybe get the support that they might deserve or the same support as maybe other bands on the bill. I'm going to go and show them that I appreciated their performance. It could well just be as nice and well-meaning as that. But the fact that we always have to doubt that is really sad.
Yeah, you've really got it. There's just so many questions that go with it. You can't generally just take a compliment.
No.
Which is a shame.
I feel like a lot of like male musicians can just be like, oh, thank you. Like, I appreciate that. Thank you for watching.
Yeah.
We're like, what's your deal?
Yeah. Is there an ultimatum here?
Yeah.
Why are you doing this? You can't mean it.
Oh.
I didn't like my performance, so you didn't.
No, exactly. But I feel like, I think the thing is as well is I don't often get, unless we're at a show where there are specifically other women involved in either other bands or the teching or putting it on or whatever, usually the audience compliments, in my experience, have tended to be from mostly men. And I think obviously part of that is we play a lot of places where mostly men spend their time, like pubs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But, part of that is also like, I'd feel a little bit better if I got more compliments from women so that it actually I'd feel less like it could possibly be somebody trying to be a creep. Like,
yeah, to be fair, compliments from women, like, it feels different. It feels genuine.
Yeah.
And it feels like you've done something to, like, be proud of.
Mm.
Whereas compliments from men, they just come with so many questions that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's definitely like partly an us problem,
Yeah,
but
it's
not
definitely a
entirely.
stereotype, but
Because I can imagine it's really frustrating for guys to be like, I'm literally just trying to be a nice guy.
yes, yeah.
Like, I found your performance impressive, and I said that to
And I
try
wanted
and help
to,
you
yeah,
and be
exactly,
nice.
yeah.
And then you're there like, why are you being weird?
Yeah. It's again, yeah, it's a tough one because it is a stereotype, but we've also got reason to think of those stereotypes, even if they don't apply.
And mostly all of the
experience.
questions, yeah, that's exactly it. All the questions that run through my head are like past experience from the same situation that you're in.
Yeah.
You know, whereas I haven't been in that situation with women, so
Well, exactly.
they're probably not trying to be mean.
Once or twice is a coincidence, and then more than that feels like a pattern. So you're going to automatically be like, "Oh, I've been in this situation before, and you know, it wasn't it wasn't genuine."
Yeah, exactly. And not like music specific as well, just like in everyday life.
Oh my God, working in retail.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I gave that so much. The last question of the podcast.
You got to do it like a,
Everything weighs on this moment. It really doesn't.
This is make or break for me.
I can ask you this a little bit because you have been part of, oh my God, my chair keeps rolling. You have been part of a show with us that was like the International Women's Day event sort of thing. So what's your opinion on the importance of shows or festivals, blogs, all that sort of thing that showcase female talent and LGBT talent, like these underrepresented.
Uh-huh. Are you sure?
Oops. No, I'm not sure. I'm not sure of anything. Yeah, that showcase female LGBT talent, other underrepresented groups.
I think it's important, like, generally anyway, but not so. I mean, obviously it's important because it gives female, we talked about this in the last video, it gives female bands like more of an opportunity to play, and like you're going to be more comfortable doing it. Like, I know that shouldn't be the case, but it is. Like, you're going to be more comfortable doing a female majority festival than you would not so much, especially if you're a little bit new or nervous. So I think that's important, but I also think it's important for like girls to go and see other girls doing it.
Yes.
Because even if like you're not particularly, you might not be interested in it at all, and then you look and you think, actually that's something I could get into, or it might be something that you've been thinking about but you've always been like, no, I'm not really sure. And then you look and you think, actually they look like they're having a fucking grand time.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like, I definitely can't understate the importance of artists like Avril Lavigne, and when Paramore were big on the scene, that was around the time I was already starting to get into music, and then them opening the gates to other female artists. I make an effort to listen to female artists. I did, especially in the past when there were less of them, to listen to female bands, whether female fronted or female inclusive bands. And, you know, you might like some more than others, but I always wanted to give them the chance because a lot of the time they will become some of my favorite bands.
Yeah.
And then also just to be like, yeah, there's a market for this, you know, just to prove the point that, yeah, they deserve this platform. They deserve to be listened to. And it's just kind of supporting what there is so that there can be more, I guess.
I think a lot, like, with stuff like that as well, it's all about like exposure. We've definitely talked about this in the past, but I think with something completely irrelevant, but it's the same sort of thing. In the like, just as if you can get as many like female bands in the media and in magazines, on radio, everything, then there's going to be a point where no one even bats an eyelid anymore.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the point where I think everyone wants to get to.
Yeah.
Where it's not.
The more you normalize it, the less people can say anything bad.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, there's still obviously going to be the odd person that believes that women should make sandwiches and do nothing else. But
only if I'm making one for myself, motherfucker.
Not even then. You can make me one.
No. Yeah, that doesn't work for me. I'm going to go to Subway. Someone else can make my fucking sandwich.
Excuse me, have you got a male member of staff that can make my sandwich, please? I want to make eye contact. No, look at me, sir. He's like, yeah, it's my job. You're like, no. Act like you don't like it.
He doesn't like it. It's his job.
True. And he's working at Subway.
But no, like again, I completely agree. Like, I think it's super important just to like, some people might not even realize it's something they can do until they see somebody like them doing it.
Well, I think bands especially, actually, that is a good point. I do remember, like, always loving music and like listening to other bands and stuff, but it's not even a thing that was even on my radar to be able that I could do. You know, it's just like, it's like being an actor and stuff like that. You see it and then you just, it's like, oh, that's the thing that someone does. Not me though. You know, I'm not going to do something like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't think that was a gender thing. I think that was just like, I just assumed that wasn't a thing, and then
I think the thing of like, with a musician, you think they're either going to be just playing like in pubs like we do, or they're going to be super famous and there's no in between. But there is, and as we start to recognize that gap more and what goes on in that gap more, there's more of becomes more realistic that you can do it.
Yeah, definitely. I think, but then that's the sort of the other thing about the female festivals. But it might be great now because we're still relatively underrepresented as women in the industry. But like, as we get more represented, female festivals are going to be like a separate.
It's just going to be a festival.
Thing. It's like, yeah, it's like putting it apart when that's like the opposite of what you're fighting for. So,
but if that's the goal,
there's going to be a point where it's not.
It's one of those things where actually, in the end, you want it to become irrelevant, and you want it to become
exactly
obsolete. That's what you want. And I think,
definitely. There's going to be hopefully a time where like it does more damage than good to put on female festivals.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what you want. Yeah,
I was going to say, I think the good thing is that is kind of the goal.
Yeah.
Like, you go into it hoping that that's going to happen, rather than, I hope there doesn't come a time when nobody wants to come to my festival.
Yeah.
Can you think of anything that we spoke about way back when that you wanted to go into more but didn't at the time for whatever reason?
I remember talking about being more comfortable. Did you do it again?
I constantly hit my elbows. It's not even funny. I remember what you were talking about because it was a good point.
I know. I think I do. I think I was saying
comfortable.
That,
you're talking to girls.
Yeah, because it's like plenty of bands off joined my band before. Actually, that's another thing I was going to mention that I'll just mention now before I forget.
Yeah.
Is that it's not. When I message people on joining my band, I message you guys on Facebook, so it wasn't as much of a deal because you see my name and my picture. But on join my band, I will always like sign off with my name so that they know that I'm a girl. For two reasons. One, because that might make them more interested in letting me into the band. And two, so that if they don't want a girl, they can make an excuse and I don't have to know about it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
That's a good method.
So I used to, like in the first couple of times I applied, I would put like, my name's Amy, I'm a female bassist from here. And then I was like, I don't have
they
to
can put it
mention
together themselves, yeah.
Yeah.
That makes me think of like, I've heard about people who don't have very English sounding names submitting like to a job twice, submitting once with their own name and then submitting with like a more westernized name to see what the difference was, or whether or not they would get like exactly the same everything else, all of their qualifications still the same, but they would change the name. And some people have done it with gender too, of like, say I applied for a job and I put J-O or J-O-E, exactly the same, and see what happens. I've definitely heard about people doing that and seeing different results from it. So it's interesting that you brought that up because I think that's a good way to weed out people, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's like, yeah, I think, because I've had a couple of people reply and literally, like, I quite like it when they're honest, because they're literally like, yeah, like that, the reason I said about that, that band that I was in with the boys was because they literally replied, like, yeah, it'd be really cool to have a girl in the band, like a female bassist. I was like, okay, well, it's good that
Well, that's nice.
I put my name
At
on
least
it
you're honest.
because, yeah, exactly. I mean, at least I'm in the band.
Yeah, at least you know where you stand from the start, even if it's not ideal.
Yeah, well, yeah, sometimes you got to use it, and yeah.
Yep, sometimes you've got to play whatever cards you've been dealt.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I just make sure to always put my name on it, just for basically so they know. But yeah, I think sometimes it's going to help me, sometimes it's going to hinder me. But I always make sure to put my name on it so that people are aware, and then they can work out what they want to do, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to approach it. Well, you said you felt more comfortable messaging us knowing there were girls in the band, didn't you?
Yeah, for sure. Like, it was the messaging, like, I think, because I did it on Facebook as well, like, I was able to look on, it wasn't like going in blind. Usually on Join My Band, it's like, this is the band name, then you message them going in completely blind. Whereas I've been able to stalk Dino a little bit first.
Yeah, we already have presence to be stalked.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
So I knew, like, what you all, like, who was in the band kind of thing.
Yeah.
Original message that I sent you guys was, like, just casual. Yeah. You know, that's kind of how I talk, like, not as much how I talk. Like, I'm not going to be like, yo, bitches.
What's that?
Like I do now. But it was pretty, like, friendly and casual, because I thought, like, I knew you were girls, and I was like, I know I'm going to get less judgment.
Well,
no.
You hope.
I imagine I'm going to get less judgment. So I was a lot
You
less,
were very disappointed to find out how judgy I actually am.
Exactly.
It's so funny because I'm not judgmental just for the sake of
It's not true. She's horrendously judgmental.
Oh,
how shit I am all the time.
Wow. And, I'm very encouraging.
She screams.
Tell the people I'm encouraging. Right, that's it. I'm stopping.
So the message was, like, originally, like, I was more comfortable sending it, but I was way less nervous when I went to meet you guys, because I knew it was just you and Shah.
Yeah.
And obviously, first of all, don't meet strangers off the internet, like, unless you go into a public place.
Yeah.
So, you know, fair enough.
Yeah, we met publicly.
Yeah, we did.
But also, it's meeting in numbers as well, because you could have been lying about who you were. So if it was just me meeting you, that could have been weird.
What an extreme catfish.
That would have been a reverse Uno.
But yeah, so, like, from a not wanting to meet random people off the internet, I'm a lot more comfortable meeting two women on the internet than I would be meeting two men on the internet.
Me too.
Like, even if you're going to a public space, it's still a little bit intimidating.
You got free hot chocolate as well.
I did. Yeah, that was fucking grand. I'm like,
I don't want one. And they were like, yes, you do.
I really hated that as well, because I really didn't want one. I think, right, so I was like, the reason I didn't order them, usually I would order one out of, like, just politeness, because it's a little bit weird to not order one when everyone else is. But I was, like, nervous, so I'd made myself feel sick. And I was like, is it worse to order a hot chocolate, not drink it, to not order a hot chocolate, or to order it, drink it, and then throw up on these people? So I was like, going to go
wanted to see some drama happen that day.
The lesser of these three evils, and not order myself a hot chocolate.
Oh.
But then I did get that one and didn't throw up, so winner.
It was a good sign. So with a lot of the times when you see female artists, they tend to be solo artists. And, or like you said, it could be a case of competition. But I'm thinking about how, say if you're a female songwriter and you have a really specific idea of what you want, and you wanted a band, you want to get a band going either as like be a part of a band or to have a band backing you. I think there's the idea of like a man is assertive, a woman is bossy.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like maybe there's some apprehension there of being in a band and kind of asserting what it is you want something to sound like or what it is that you want to do, and feeling like people are thinking you're bossy or something rather than actually just taking you seriously, of knowing what you want, and that's a respectable thing.
That's probably quite fair, to be honest. And also it's the like, if I get a band behind me, is it gonna is what I want gonna get steamrolled over because she's a woman, which like happens quite, not in music specifically. Yeah, well, but generally, things get steamrolled quite easily.
No, you're right. When I was doing this survey that we did way back when, somebody did say, as like the woman in the band, and they always felt like they had to kind of prove that their ideas were worth pursuing. They felt like they had to like really make their case for it, rather than just like, we could do this, and then we could do that. Which, I don't know. It could have been a gender thing. It could have been, I think we've spoke about this before, sometimes it can just be clashing personalities and clashing ideas of the vision of what you want the music to sound like. But again, it's one of those things where if you've had that past experience of being dismissed, you might think that that's why you're being dismissed this time,
I wonder if, I don't know, like this is literally a thought I've just had and it's half-baked, but, so enjoy.
I love half-baked things. Brownies.
But, cookies. Yeah.
Please continue.
But you said about like women being more like solo artists. Usually, like, obviously when you write music, I think generally women are going to write music that's more personal and go into music because like it's personal and it's like interesting to them, whereas I think some more men are going to go into music for the like, because it's exciting, and because they want to be a rock star and they want the lifestyle and all this, where I think women are more likely to go into it because it's personal and it's something that might mean something to them.
Yeah.
And I think people like that are more likely to be solo musicians because they write the music and they want it to be exactly how they want, rather than men who go in for the lifestyle and that they have no reason to be a solo artist.
Yeah, well, I totally agree.
That makes sense.
No, I talked kind of a little bit about that. When I was doing my essay way back when, I talked a little bit about stuff like emo and the alternative scene, and how if the stereotype is that women are more emotional, you would think there would be more of a place for them in genres like emo and alternative music, where it is more about talking about personal things. I think that's why, because I joke, but I'm also serious. Like, country is kind of emo, and I feel like that's one of the reasons I personally like a lot of female country artists a lot, is because I'm like, I can hear the emo here. I'm on board.
That is quite interesting.
It's a different backing music, but it's emo.
Yeah, I see what you mean. But I wonder, like, emo, I think, I'm going to use like my MCR as an example, but outside of the alternative scene, they're like looked down on, and obviously like emo stands for emotional or whatever.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it's more looked down on because it's dudes doing it than it would be if it was women doing it.
Well, I think that's part of it, definitely, because this is something I learned when I was doing the reading for that, is that emo kind of came from it's like an offshoot of hardcore, but it was like people who were feeling unwelcome or were kind of sick of the macho hypermasculinity sort of stuff going on, and wanted to sing about more personal things or about emotions and wanted to be more experimental with the instrumentation and stuff. So it's the same reason that like Riot Girl happened, and it's the same reason that queercore happened, is because those people weren't feeling represented in that scene and they weren't really able to vibe with what was being put out there, whether that be in the audience or in the music. So they made their own kind of subgenres. But yeah, I definitely think there is a case of looking down on it because it's men. Definitely more so in the past. I think a lot of the mainstream have come to accept it more now. And I think part of that is, and it's going to sound weird, but I think part of that is rappers. Like, there's been a lot more like emo rap. Do you know what I mean? Like Post Malone and stuff. Like
I do know what you mean.
So there's a lot more. Post Malone was a scene kid. Like he loved stuff like My Chemical Romance and stuff like that. So I think there has been that sort of crossover. And I think it's just societal attitudes as well, towards men being able to express themselves. But I think there's definitely been a more mainstream appreciation of bands like My Chemical Romance since bands like My Chemical Romance have been gone. And then Panic at the Disco and Fall Out Boy also kind of crossed over into the mainstream. So I think that's definitely helped like bridge that gap a bit. But yeah, there's definitely a case to be made for emo rap bringing that over as well.
I think that's fair actually, because rap, you're right, rap did change. Like obviously there's still a lot of rap that's classic rap, well, what they were.
A lot of rappers had the same problem of the whole masculinity, hyper-masculine, misogynistic.
Yeah.
So then people would make their own subgenres if they want to talk about their feelings.
And rap can be so cool and so like it can really fucking hit. I think like if it's the right rap, it can really, really hit.
Yeah, because it's so focused on lyrical content.
Yeah, I used to really not like rap at all, but recently like there's been some things, not even, I can't think of any mainstream rappers, but like rappers that I saw on like Facebook, like Lad Bible or something, and then started following.
Yeah.
But it's made me start enjoying rap when it's decent lyrical content.
Yeah, that's exactly it for me.
It's quite interesting.
Because the main thing, I think I was talking to this, when I was talking to Emily, Sammy was there as well. And Sammy loves rap. She loves gangster rap. I'll talk to her. I'm going to have a chat with her because I'd be really interested to talk to her about this. Yeah. But she was like, I absolutely love rap, but it's so misogynistic. I'm like, totally agree. That's my main problem with rap. Like, I prefer more musical stuff anyway. But because I love lyrical content, in an ideal world, I would also love rap because
there's so many.
That's the focus. Yeah, exactly. But there's so many. You have to be so careful of who you listen to. In terms of like, you don't know a lot of the time if they're going to be misogynistic, if they're going to be homophobic, they're going to have these disgusting views. And that's like that there's plenty of music where that's my problem with a lot of country too. Hence why I'm quite selective with my country, and hence why I listen to more female country artists. But you don't know that they're not going to turn around and be super fucking racist. You have to be careful of that in that situation, you know? So I think it doesn't just come down to rap. It comes down to you have to be careful in every genre, because there's these kind of inherent views within a lot of them that are starting to die out, but there are still people who buy into them or cling to them even.
Every genre has its like negative stereotypes, and like what you hear it about a genre and your mind will automatically go to a certain place or a certain view or a certain like thing, and often, in fact, almost always they're like negative in my experience. So I think it's got to come from somewhere, and I think that's probably the way it will always be, that you'll always have that like first thought, but it's just that hopefully it will get proved wrong.
Yeah.
And people's will get proved wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's definitely heading that way with most genres.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Well, that's why I like to just listen to a bit of everything and see what hits, because I think it's silly to completely cut yourself off from any genre, because you could be missing out on something that you absolutely love just because you think you don't like the genre. But there's so many, especially now, there's so many subgenres, there's so many crossover of influences and all this sort of thing. And so many people don't want to just stick to one genre that you can't necessarily say that you don't like it because it's got an element of this or whatever.
Yeah, there's bound to be like there's bound to be some in like every genre, even if you generally don't like, because I'm not a massive fan of country, but there's still a couple of songs that I will reluctantly find myself like nodding along to. I used to like outright say that I didn't like country, but I've now know that that's not true.
It's it's one of those things where it's like, do I not like it because I don't like it, or do I not like it because I've been told that it's not likable? If that makes sense.
No, I didn't like it because I didn't like it.
I know, but like, you know, there's always that thing of like, there's always the joke of like, I like all music except country. And it's stuff like, where does that come from? Because
yeah, for sure.
I understand not liking it. Like the reason that, again, that I'm wary about it is because of a lot of the views within the industry. It's nothing to do, like, generally it's not to do with how it sounds, because I quite like I like a lot of stuff that is like country infused.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of rock bands that have a little bit of country twang or whatever going on. So it's not like,
I think.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think like pop is a good example, because when you're like, I'm going to go back to like when your kid's a kid, you're always like, if you're not into pop, then that's like the worst thing in the world. You know, as like a scene kid, the idea that you might like pop is like, you know, you're going to get banished from the scene if you like pop. And then
and now it's like scene kids are pop. Like Halsey was a scene kid and she's huge.
Yeah, exactly. But that's still like ingrained into me a little bit, like knowing that having been so against pop for so long. And then it was literally like, I remember it was 2016. I was in Norway listening to Taylor Swift like properly, thinking, why am I actually enjoying Taylor Swift? Like, my street cred's gone right out the window.
I'm never ever going to discount anybody for liking her, because I recognize what they like there.
Yeah, I think like, because as you grow up, your scenes and like genres are so much more important when you're in secondary school. Let's be honest, like secondary school is where it's at. And then as you grow out of it, you forget to grow out of it. Yeah,
it's definitely like a way of kind of establishing your identity, and you probably go into it maybe more than you should, but it's a community, isn't it? No, I had a very similar thing, because obviously I grew up liking a lot of rock, but I think I kind of went the opposite direction of like, I was being told I wasn't allowed to like pop, but I kind of did like pop and I wanted to listen to other music. And it was like, no, you like rock, like everything else is trash. I'm like, fuck you. So I think that's kind of why I've gone so strongly in the other direction of I like everything, just because it was I wasn't allowed to like anything.
Yeah, absolutely. You just want to do the opposite of what you're told.
Yeah.
I remember, this is such a strange memory, but it's literally just kicked into my head. Being at school, and I was obviously not a cool kid. Crazy, I know. But I had one friend that was like super popular. We'd been friends with since like primary school, and she just not shook me. And I remember her like we were showing each other music, and she was showing me all this popular stuff, and I was like, gonna get her to listen to My Chemical Romance. So I tried to get her to listen to You Know What They Do to Guys Like Us in Prison. And she I remember making her listen to it, and she liked the first like verse and then hated it when it got to the chorus. But I was like, that's fucking progress, to get a popular kid to admit that they liked a bit of a My Chemical Romance song.
I definitely got a few of my friends into stuff like My Chemical Romance and stuff like that, and Fall Out Boy. And they all still like it today, so you know. I remember I'm thinking about two very petty things right now, and I'm going to bring them up. I remember one time in secondary school, I think Black Eyed Peas had brought out My Humps, and I wasn't really like listening to pop music at the time, but I like when I was a little bit younger, I'd actually really liked the Black Eyed Peas, and somebody was like, I bet you don't even know who this song is by, and I didn't realize it was a new Black Eyed Peas song, but I was pissed off because I was like, I probably liked the Black Eyed Peas before you did, bitch. And then I remember, do you remember, I'm sure you do, I think we've sang it recently at a band practice or something, but Do you remember Cupid's Chokehold by Gym Class Heroes?
Oh yeah.
That one.
Sure.
So at that time, I was listening to pretty much all of the artists on Fueled by Ramen because loads of my favorite artists were on it, like Fall Out Boy and Paramore. So I was listening to loads of them, and I found Gym Class Heroes, and I was listening to that song a fair few months before it came out in the UK, and I was telling all of my friends to listen to it, but because I was the kid who listened to rock, nobody would listen to it. I was like, no, like, you will like it. And everybody completely ignored my recommendations. And then however long later, a couple months later, it's this huge song in the UK. Everybody's singing it. And I was like, I fucking told you months ago that you would like this fucking song and you dismissed me. And clearly I'm over it.
That hasn't stung you at all, has it?
No. To be fair, like I don't think in situations where I've recommended something and someone's ignored it and then someone else has recommended them the same thing and they've gone to listen to it, I don't necessarily think that was like actively, I'm not going to listen to what Joe, but like I think subconsciously, and maybe it might be sexism because like I'm thinking of not a specific example of an actual thing that I recommended because I can't remember what it was, but of me recommending something to, I think, my dad and my stepmom. And they were like, yeah. And then somebody else, a mutual friend, suggesting the same thing. And I would sometimes do that to him. Like I would suggest something to that friend and he'd be like, yeah, and then wouldn't do it. And then my dad would recommend the same thing and he'd be like, yeah, I'll do it. And I was like, is this a me thing or is this a sexism thing?
Yeah, that's... Is this a me thing or is this a sexism thing? It's such a problem.
Isn't it?
In so many like...
Is it my taste you don't trust or is it because I'm a girl?
Yeah, literally. No one wants to be that person that's like, it's because I'm a girl, isn't it? And have them go,
yeah, that's the thing as well.
Like you.
Oh, I feel like that's very much been a thing of like, you're not allowed to call it out because you'll get, oh, you're just making it about gender. Like it's the way so many people like shut down like valid criticisms of things to do with race or whatever. Like, why'd you have to make everything about race? It's like, surely the person who isn't white in this situation has the authority to say whether or not they think this is about race or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And also like, because it's difficult, there's like, I think there's an imbalance, like, because calling people like snowflakes is such a big thing. Like,
it's a dismissive thing.
What I'm about to say is going to make it sound exactly what I'm about to say, right?
Okay.
But the term social justice warrior is like such a like negative term. But
what's wrong with
possibly be a bad thing?
Yeah, what's wrong with wanting justice?
Wanting social justice be a bad thing? Think about what you're saying. Okay, carry on.
If you were like a lawyer, people aren't like, you want justice. You're a judge.
Look at me. I want everyone to be equal. Like that's a bad thing.
God forbid. Jeez. You'll often find it's people who either already benefit from the system or haven't figured out that they're part of the system, if that makes sense. So it'll be people who like, it doesn't affect me, so it can't be a problem.
Yeah.
Even if they are like part of the group that it could affect.
Yeah, or it is a problem, but there's nothing I can do about it, kind of thing.
Yeah,
so
I get that a little bit, but if you don't have to do anything big. It's just little things, and it all adds up.
And I think dismissing it is like doing something against it. Like even just acknowledging it is a good thing sometimes.
Well, exactly. I think that's exactly why the things do get dismissed, so that I don't have to deal with that. Or they don't want the power balance to change.
Mm-mm. Like, don't get me wrong, there is a lot of people that complain about things that there's no reason to complain about.
Yeah, some people take it too far. Yeah, absolutely.
But I think it's that idea of everyone needs to grow up has gone like too far the other way.
Yeah.
To the point where it's genuine and like valid complaints are being dismissed.
You're totally right. Like, people bring these things up, and like you said, it will be stuff like, oh, you're a feminazi or whatever. It's like, I want to be treated with respect. What's wrong with that?
And it'll be because you always bring it up with like something little as well. So I totally get why someone would be like, it's nothing. But
the little things snowball.
So many things. Yeah, you get like, that's the thing that people don't get is if you get a little comment every day for your entire life, like that stuff like that is the reason that people, like I was saying, that I felt like I had to prove myself in music because of my gender, but I couldn't work out why.
Yeah,
it's because of stuff like that. Absolutely.
No, I agree. And it's also a case of giving an inch and then they take a mile. If you let them get away with the little stuff, you are going to escalate that stuff. Well, not always, obviously, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
If people really
especially
want to,
like with banter or with friendly banter. My little rant over, I'm done.
No, I liked it. It was great. I had a great time listening to it. It sounds sarcastic. It's
it really
not.
Annoys me. It's the social justice warrior one that gets me.
Yeah, no, it pisses me off.
Because how can you possibly say that like it's a bad thing?
I don't know how to explain to you that you should care about other people.
The words that you're saying, oh, she's just a social justice warrior. Yeah, yes, of course she is. You should be too.
Yeah. You should care about people other than yourself. I know it's radical.
Feminist as well. Oh, such a
caring
feminist.
About other people, funnily enough, makes everyone better, makes society better.
You just heard that social justice warrior and feminist is an insult and then are using it without thinking about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I just want to thank you for your time, Amy, because I know you're super busy. In lockdown on.
I did have to squeeze you into my jam-packed schedule today.
I know you had a client before me, so.
I did.
No, but thank you, because we have great chats anyway in general usually about TV and stuff, but it's good to talk about this, and it's good to revisit it now. Revisit it now? That's yes. Now that we know each other a lot better than we did before.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a lot more comfortable having myself a little rant now.
Yeah, that's exactly kind of why I wanted to do one with just you, to just give you that chance to talk that you might have not have had as much before, not just because of shyness, but also you're coming into a dynamic of two people who know each other pretty well. Mm-hmm. And it was also kind of a practice thing. So I had a lot to say, kind of to prompt ideas and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a great chat. It's been good to go over some of this stuff, even if it's like rehashing things. And even if some of it is only being kind of vaguely related, it still all kind of comes back down to it. So I just want to thank you for taking the time to speak to me. It's been great.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Yeah, it's been nice.
I miss you.
Been cool to Oh, miss you too. That's cute.
You know. We don't have anything to promo. You can listen to the band, but the recordings aren't Amy because unfortunately the recordings that would have been Amy have been rescheduled because of lockdown.